Welcome back to Talk of the Town, everybody. I'm Doug with Renee. It's 8:34 in the morning, November 24th, 2014. I guess we're going straight to the Talk of the Town hotline. We are pleased to have back on Talk of the Town Stephen Aaron Gray. The book is The Ant Farm, a novel about what's bugging society. Of course, Stephen Aaron Gray is a leading libertarian spokesperson, tech activist, and, of course, the author of this great book. Now, Stephen, welcome to the show. And we've been talking about net neutrality for about the last half hour and trying to explain to our listeners exactly what this is and how dangerous it is to our freedoms. Welcome to the show. How you doing this morning?
I'm great. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, anytime. We very much enjoyed it last time you were on the show. Now, we've been talking about what net neutrality is. Why don't we let Stephen give his take on what it is, his take on net neutrality, since we've been...
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So first of all, I think that the term net neutrality itself is really not accurate. It's more of like a feel-good term for something that nobody should feel good about at all. I think a more accurate term, and this would really help expose people to the truth about it, so a more accurate term would be government internet price controls, because that's what it is. It's the government telling internet service providers what they can and cannot charge. Now, there's a little more history to it. It's not something that just came up out of the blue right now. You really need to look at the source of the problem, because it is a problem. Internet service providers do charge a lot of money. But here's the reason, and it goes back to when the government first awards monopoly or oligopoly privileges to one or two service providers in a geographical area. And then we, the consumer, have very little choice when it comes to shopping around for internet service. And people then feel a need to have the state step in again to control that pricing. But the real solution goes to the root of the problem, which is just to stop regulating things so much so that more companies can compete. Because as we all know, when there's more competition, prices come down anyway and quality increases anyway. And then you don't need the state to step in to regulate things.
Well said.
Well, you know what, we're so silly sometimes. We're not really smart. For example, I've got internet. I pay for internet service, through my cable provider, okay?
Right.
And in addition to that, I have cell phone service with Verizon, where I also get the same internet to my phone. So, I'm paying more than double of what I should, because I feel like I've just got to keep up with everything going on instantly every second of every day. And it's really kind of stupid. In other words, I'm a stupid consumer from that standpoint. You know what I'm saying? In other words, it's kind of...
I would disagree with you. I think there's a need for internet on your, I think there's a consumer need nowadays for internet on your phone, and also internet to your home, where you can connect on your computer. Sometimes I do things on my computer, sometimes I do things on my phone, so I too need both. I don't think that makes you nor I stupid. I think it makes it unfortunate that we have to pay so much for both of these things because the state is regulating things so heavily.
Right, and the taxes and the fees. Well, what I mean by...
Yeah, I don't think she said that right, Stephen.
Yeah, in other words, I'm not being a smart shopper because I feel like I have to be so in tune, but good grief, it is expensive. And like when I look at my cell phone bill, all the additional regulatory fees and taxes, it's just incredible. And we're talking about those fees increasing, aren't we, with pretty much worse service? Is that what we're saying?
Are you talking for cell phones or for internet service?
Internet, period, right?
Yeah. Well, it's, I think generally the curve is that as time passes, the state, try as it may, cannot keep technology down. So we are seeing advances in technology where internet is generally becoming faster and better technologically, but we are seeing price increases that are higher than they ought to be, that are higher than they would be in a true free market, where actually the tendency in free markets is for prices to go down. And you see that with other areas of technology or other areas of industry where the state isn't as involved. Really, this is one of the themes of my book, is that of Ant Farm, which you mentioned at the top of the segment, which is that, the government will come in and create a problem. Well, first, there are real problems with or without the state. And then the government will come in and try and solve that problem and create a bigger problem. And then people will try to rely on the government to come and fix that problem. And it'll create an even bigger problem. It's just an ongoing cycle where if they just stepped out of the way, yes, of course, there are going to be some problems, but they won't be as exacerbated as when the state steps in and makes everything worse.
Right.
Stephen,
kind of like with health care.
Yeah,
they don't do a very good job of protecting our nation, and yet they're going to involve themselves in other issues.
Now, Stephen, we know that the Internet is really kind of the great equalizer as far as opportunity for people to start their own businesses without a lot of brick and mortar capital. And isn't it really important that we actually keep the Internet the way it is now so that those opportunities for job creation and business creation can exist?
I would say at the very least, yes, but I would advocate for even further removal of the state in the area of the Internet. As we were discussing, the state is already fairly involved in the regulation when it comes to granting monopoly privileges to certain geographic areas to Internet service providers. And I would say at the very least keep it what it is now, but actually let's roll it back because it is getting more and more expensive, even for small business owners or people that want to start a company. And it doesn't have to be that way. If the state got out of the way and we had 20, 30 Internet service providers in our area, the same way we've got 20, 30 different fast food choices to pick from.
Right.
This whole debate is sort of like, it's easier to see if you took a geographic area like, say, Chicago, and the government stepped in and they said, okay, from now on, McDonald's, you're the only company that's allowed to offer fast food in the Chicago area. Well, all of a sudden you'd see McDonald's charging whatever they want. They wouldn't feel really a need to offer good product or good service anymore. And prices would skyrocket and quality would go down. Now, what's the best way to handle that? Is it to say, hey, government, come in and regulate McDonald's pricing? Or is it to say, hey, government, get out of the way and let Wendy's compete, let Burger King compete, let KFC compete? I think the second one is the more preferable option, and that's what we should have in the Internet.
What about the issue of free speech? Isn't that a huge part of what net neutrality is trying to stifle?
Well, I don't know if it's trying to stifle it, but I think that could be an end result. You start off with this. Well, as we know, government programs, they always start out with one sort of limited mandate, and then they always expand. And so right now, it's just, the messages from the state, hey, we need to step in to control the pricing of Internet to keep it, quote, unquote, fair. But who knows down the road how that's going to manifest further, right? Right now, it's just that. But what if there's content the state doesn't want you to see online? Maybe they charge you more for those websites. Maybe they ban those websites entirely. So it can easily turn into a free speech issue, and I hope it doesn't. And we really need to stop this before it gets to be a serious problem.
Well, I want to remind folks that we are on the line and interviewing Stephen Aaron Gray. He is the author of Ant Farm, and that's Stephen, Stephen, and that's Aaron Gray, GREY.com. And it's pretty interesting. Your book, Ant Farm, you're talking in that book more or less about takeover, ruining a perfectly good society of ants. But good grief, this would be one way that they could definitely do that. Don't you see that happening?
Oh, absolutely. We do still have a relatively free Internet right now. And, pretty much, in my opinion, everything the government touches turns to garbage. And I'd really hate to see them turn... I'd really hate to see them turn the Internet into garbage. And like you were saying in my book, Ant Farm, that's sort of what happens with each and everything that the state touches. I hope people will be interested enough to check it out. I do give away the first 4 chapters for free at antfarmbook.com. And then you'll start to see that all of these things are connected. They're not really just isolated issues. It's all a matter of personal and individual liberty and freedom. And I really hope people are going to start to wake up and see this message that we need less state control and more personal freedom and innovation, because that's what keeps prices low. That's what keeps technology advancing, and that's what we need.
Stephen, I think Renee hit it. She sort of touched on it. Ted Cruz came out, and Renee just brought this up. This is Obamacare for the Internet, isn't it? Basically, that is a good way to look at this?
That is a good way to look at it. But before there was Obamacare for healthcare, there was Obamacare for a number of other programs before Obama was ever in office and before probably he was even born. It's not entirely fair to keep associating Obama with these kinds of things. They existed well before he did, and even with a lot of Republican presidents and Republican politicians, too.
Can't deny that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's always overreach, isn't it? They want to control everything. It drove me crazy during this last election. Every time, I'd want to pull up a YouTube song, I'd have to go through a 30-minute ad campaign for somebody running for office, and it drove me absolutely nuts.
But you noticed, you pulling them up, they were all conservative targeted ads. That's how tight this is, the controls in this are. They know exactly what you want to see in that ad. Is that right, Stephen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, they would be blocking those. So with net neutrality, wouldn't those types of things be blocked?
It's impossible to say for certain. There's certainly a chance that could happen. Yes, it starts off now with price controls, but down the road, it may the fingers of the government may meddle into the actual content on the web as well. Look, you do see that to some extent already through intellectual property law.
You're right.
Which, a lot of people think is a good thing. I happen to think it's a bad thing, but that's a whole other issue for another discussion, I think.
Right. Well, absolutely. Now, for example, what I'm thinking will happen too, for example, let's say, as far as the prioritizing, with websites or stories or things of that nature, where you won't be able to find things because they'll be so far down the totem pole.
Yeah, now hold on, Stephen, before you give us that answer. We're going to the break. We'll be right back with Stephen Aaron Gray. The book is Ant Farm. And Renee's got ants in her pants right now.
Oh.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town, everybody. I'm Doug with Renee. It is 8:50 in the morning, and we're going straight back to the Talk of the Town hotline. We got Stephen Aaron Gray on the line. He's a leading libertarian spokesperson, tech activist, and author of Ant Farm, a novel about what's bugging society. I hope everybody get this book. We're talking about net neutrality. Is it the next fascist incrementalism that Obama wants to enforce? Stephen, we were talking about a specific issue that Renee was bringing up about search engines before. Now, how does net neutrality affect this?
Well, it's hard to say exactly where it's going to lead. You never exactly know. I don't know that it's going to affect search engines directly, at least in the short term. But down the road, who knows? Right now the government's talking about controlling pricing, and really this mostly affects you if you do a lot of video streaming, because that's what takes up the most bandwidth, right? So they're trying to, internet service providers want to penalize you if you're using more bandwidth by making you pay more, and the state wants to step in and say, no, internet service provider, you've got to give the same price to everyone, regardless of how much bandwidth they use. So is that going to affect internet service providers down the road? Hard to say for sure. But I think there's definitely a good chance that what starts off as a small mandate will definitely expand into all kinds of other things that we can't even predict.
Yeah, you open the door a little bit, and
the floodwaters come.
Yeah, then see what happens. Yeah, I don't think we can give them any room here whatsoever. I really don't. Now, is there kind of a monopoly on it? Yes, there is. no doubt about it, especially in your larger cities. And it is true, but this is not, it's not the government's job to, take care of this. They're supposed to protect our borders, in my opinion.
Seems to be this
and
government's
nothing more.
job.
But
they think it is.
Yeah, and I would see this as overreach. I can't imagine Obama wanting to do this, or anybody within the government wanting to do this, if they didn't have some sort of net gain in the long run. Do you?
No, absolutely. You're right. They certainly, politicians always have something to gain by passing something that will favor one business over another. Often, large corporations are contributing to their campaigns. But I do want to get back to something that you mentioned a moment ago, which was that, the whole monopoly idea of it and how that's a problem. Let's not forget that it's a problem because of state intervention in the first place. People fail to realize that a lot. They see a problem and they think, wow, this problem just came out on its own and we need the state to come in and fix it, without realizing that oftentimes the state was the cause of the problem in the first place. And if the state got out of it, even removed themselves further, that would solve so many of the problems. And in this particular case with so-called net neutrality, which, as we were discussing, I prefer to call just something simple and clear, which is government internet price controls. If the government didn't grant monopoly privileges to companies, you could potentially see 10, 20, 30 companies competing in any geographic area the same way you see 10, 20, 30 fast food restaurants competing in a geographic area. And you wouldn't have to worry about pricing and quality. These things would regulate themselves from companies trying to compete for your business.
Yeah, has our Congress, have any of our vaunted politicians even taken a look at this and know how serious this actually is?
I'm not too sure. I don't really pay attention to what politicians say because usually it disgusts me. And I can just, you can usually count on the fact that politicians are always, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on, they're almost always going to advocate for more government intervention in more areas of your life. And so, forgive me for being a bit jaded and skeptical about how politicians may come in to save the day. I don't think they will.
Well, I guess where I was going with that is, could net neutrality be an issue that inspires kind of a tech-age political revolution?
It's hard to say. I haven't seen many positive political revolutions in this country in recent history. So
that sums it up right there, man.
So yeah, I don't know if this is going to be the catalyst for it. There are other things, frankly, out there that are even more dangerous than this, and those aren't causing waves. So I doubt that this will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. There are a lot worse situations out there. However, this is such an important aspect, and the way that I see it is, the mainstream media, as I refer to them, your ABC, CBS, NBC, they're all in bed with the Democrats, okay? As far as I can see, as far as fairness in reporting. For example, none of them even bothered to discuss or talk about in advance this bold issue regarding, illegal immigration. It was never even talked about, touched, and we see that time and time and time again. And so as far as conservative, okay, or even libertarian speech, about the only place you can even hear any of it is, say, talk radio, the Internet, and maybe a little bit on Fox News. That's it. And so, I see as them seeing the Internet as the last frontier of, free speech and reporting of the truth. And that's my biggest fear.
Yeah, and it's a valid fear. Like you said, the lamestream media, as you call them, they're generally going to be pro-state. And you can sort of throw Fox News right into that category because they're pro-state. Oh, yeah. They're just pro a different kind of state, which really isn't that different at all. And you have to understand their motivations. A lot of their news comes, a lot of the sources for their news is the state, and so what are they going to critique the state and then cut themselves off from their source? It wouldn't be smart for them. Smaller internet news providers don't have to really worry about that kind of thing. But at the same time, you do have to sift and search to find the really good, true nuggets. But they're out there, absolutely. And it is a scary prospect to think that maybe the state would do something to try and shut those people up. And I really hope it doesn't get to that. And this is really the first step in getting there, and we need to wake people up to this and make sure it doesn't happen, because, that's a whole new level of censorship that could come about from this kind of thing, and it's a scary prospect for sure.
Well, Stephen, we're up on it here on the break. Tell us about how people can get your book. And by the way, Renee, did you know he's an internationally acclaimed DJ and has the name of Freaky Flo?
Holy cow!
Freaky Flo.
That's my other secret life. Definitely been traveling the world for 21, 22 years.
Well, you have a great voice, so there you go.
How cool is that?
Oh, thank you.
That's fun.
Thanks very much. Yeah, no, usually I'm on the turntables. I'm not even speaking. I let my hands do the talking. But yeah,
okay, fun.
So how do people get the book?
So the book, Ant Farm, a novel about what's bugging society. The easiest way really is just to go to antfarmbook.com. People can get the first 4 chapters for free, and if they like it, they can go ahead and purchase it on Amazon or any other book seller as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate you coming on Talk of the Town today. I hope you'll come back and discuss this issue as it grows in importance and people wake up to what it actually is.
And I'm sure it will grow. I'm sure there'll be more to come.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you